Let's try to do this. See if we can. Facebook is there. See, how do I do this? Pin comment. Swipe left. Quiet mode turn. I don't want to turn quiet mode on. Oh.
I told you it wasn't gonna
Shh. Be quiet. Play too much. All right, how do we?
I think you're already live. Isn't that what that live means in the corner?
Yeah, tag. All right. I know, but we want to be able to see it, so. There we go. There we go. All right. Cool. Y'all got to bear with us. We got some technical difficulties.
Not we, just you.
Listen here. There we go. All right. Y'all can see us, man. What's up? How y'all doing? So we got, just so y'all know, we got two different phones going on. Yeah, you can call me Coach Juan, man. We got two different phones going on. We got one on our left over here for Instagram and then one over here on Facebook. So.
Are people waving? Is that why it says wave, or is like
No,
push to wave?
it's saying you can wave back.
Oh.
Yeah. So what's up, guys, ladies, gentlemen? Thank you guys for joining us, man. This is Marriage is for Adults, episode number 1. Hold on, I'm gonna close the door. Bree, you can talk to them.
Hi, Sheila. We see you too. I don't know what else I was supposed to say.
Yeah, man. So, this is the kind of cool thing that we are going to be doing, man. We're going to be doing some stuff like this. I don't know how often, but it is something that we're going to do. This was Bree's idea. So, Bree, I don't know. Maybe you can share why you wanted to. So, first of all, I guess we can just kind of introduce ourselves or something like that for the people so they know.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, man.
Well, my name is Brianna, for those of you who may not know. Most people call me Bree. So Brianna is fine. I'm married to Juan. What else? We have a 7-month-old. He's getting big and crawling.
Man.
I work from home and just trying to survive marriage.
Yeah, man. I'm Juan, so most of you guys know me. I am a serial entrepreneur, which I'm pretty sure will be discussed at some point. Entrepreneurship life and what that means. And I gotta talk louder.
Oh, I have to talk louder.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Serial entrepreneur and kind of what that means, and how that kind of plays into just being married, man, and this journey that we've been going on. But yeah, Bree, this was her idea. Bree said that she thinks that we should do this, and I'm interested in hearing why. Why do you think?
I thought this podcast would be, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, would be good for us just to kind of have an open forum to help us walk through some of our, I don't want to say issues, but like, issues. But maybe if we put ourselves in a vulnerable position, that we can maybe talk through them more than just kind of like putting them on the back burner and then not ever discussing them. So I think this forces us to face some issues with maybe some more humor to get through them, and then see other people's perspectives as well was kind of my goal.
Yeah. I think that there is, when it comes to this whole marriage thing, which, I mean, it's not like we're just the most veteran, seasoned people, but we're going on 3 years this year. We got married in September 6th of 2015. What's up, Noah? I think one of the things that we're finding is that there's not a whole lot of like unique things that people are experiencing.
Hi, Muffin.
And so some of the things that we found or that we've been going through is like when we have conversations with other people who are married or other people who, you know, are about to venture into this journey, they have very similar stories. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think by us being able to kind of talk about some of the things we've been experiencing as a married couple, would be cool for us, and it's kind of like therapy for us at the same time as hopefully maybe other people who are experiencing it or whatever can benefit from it. So Bree wrote down some questions. So how this is gonna go, like, we'll probably have a few things that we'll talk about, and then we'll ask you guys if you guys have any questions. So feel free, if you guys want to, you know, throw some questions out there as we talk. I tasked Bree with writing down like 5 questions, so I have no idea what they are. So Bree, without further ado, let's get into it.
Well, my first question was why he called it Marriages for Adults. He wouldn't tell me, so I got to count that as one of my questions. So.
Yeah, so when I was thinking of titles of, you know, of like what I want to call this.
Oh wait, sorry. Also, this is supposed to be 30 minutes. Juan's a talker, so 30 minutes. Remember? Go ahead.
Anyway, we're gonna get right to it. You got to get on the camera. You know,
I am on this one.
This one too.
We'll turn it that way. There you go.
The reason why we said marriages for adults is because one of the things that I'm learning is that, like, this isn't like, you really got to be grown for this, right? You really have to, like, you got to be grown to be able to deal with, like, the things that, like, you are gonna go through when you go through this process. And when I say grown, I don't mean like grown, like, oh, I pay my own bills, or, you know, I got a 900 credit score, like that type of stuff. Really, you know, when it comes to like the longevity of a marriage, this is my perspective. Grown means really being able to put the other person.
Camille, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Really being able to put the other person first, right? And I think it really takes a mature adult. I think marriage is for someone who is comfortable with themselves. So I think it also takes a level of, like, maturity on everybody's part. So, I mean, I think that's why I said marriage is for grown-ups. A lot of people think they're grown until you get married and you find out, like, oh, man, I got some growing up to do. So that's why I called it marriage is for adults.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Did
you want to add anything to that about?
No, I agree. I think marriage to me showed me how grown I'm not real quick. So I think the title is very on point, because it's for adults, and if you're not an adult when you do it, it calls for a lot of growing up, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of humbling moments. So I think the title is accurate.
I mean, as two individuals who, that's a good question. Two individuals who are both Christian, and like, I just think that, like, the world has this definition of what it means to be grown and, like, successful and to have arrived. But I think when it comes to, like, a spiritual sense, I think having a spiritual maturity, you know, is extremely important, and being able to just stay grounded and rooted when, you know, the craziness of the world just takes you left and right and left and right. I think being rooted and grounded is something that takes some maturity and takes some experience, and it takes some, you know, some failure, and to learn a lot about yourself. So I think, you know, when it says for grown-ups or for adults, I think also when you talk about someone who is spiritually mature as well. So I just think it has a lot of different meanings and definitions, for me at least.
And then I wanted to know, what made you think you were ready for marriage?
Can you talk up so they can hear?
What made you think you were ready for marriage?
I'm gonna let you answer this one first.
Well, in hindsight, nothing.
No, don't give me hindsight.
At the time, I thought I was ready for marriage because I had been in a long distance relationship a few years prior, and I was kind of just on my way with my career, and I really just was looking for kind of the next level of my life and somebody to walk with me on that journey. And one of the biggest requirements for me was just having somebody who was equally yoked spiritually. And so I think that was what I was looking for, and one of the things I've always told you is that I was most attracted to was that your walk with God and your desire to have a continual relationship with God. So that's what
yeah. So I'm the person like Bree would tell, like I don't. Yeah, we'll probably upload these to YouTube later. But when it came to like, a lot of people are like, oh, before I get married, especially now, millennials, oh, before I get married, I gotta have the house, I gotta have this, I gotta have that, credit gotta be bomb, I gotta be in a, and so for me, I think for me it was a mind state, and I listen, the dating life was great and all of that, but I really had got tired of that scene. It was just hard, man. And so one of the things that I kept finding myself doing was jeopardizing my own personal relationship with God for relationships, right? So like saying like, oh man, you know what, maybe she'll do. And so when I say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore, and Bree and I came back into contact, and I remember telling my dad, like, I'm going to marry her. Me and Bree weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend. I was like, I'm going to marry her. Like, dang, she talking about tithing? She talking about I got to tithe? Like, dang, I ain't never had no girl talk to me about going to tithing. Usually it's me trying to get the other person to go to church, right? But I knew I was ready because I was ready to stop living for me and stop making decisions for me. I was ready to be selfless and ready to just put someone else first. And I think that was the main thing. For me, I thought I was ready spiritually, like as far as to go through. I had lost my mom. My mom had passed away. So I had been through some, some rocky moments. And, by going through some of those rocky moments, I think I've been able to like kind of persevere in some really tough things. And I said, okay, if I can do that, like I know God is still with me, like he still got me, I can make it through marriage. And plus I was a little crazy. I thought like, oh my God, Bree's so great, we never gonna argue. I told my dad and my brother and his wife, they got it on video when we were dating. Man, please, I love Bree. We never gonna argue, man. We just, whew. So I was a little naive too. You're right. You don't know what you don't know until you get in it. You're like, boy, why didn't nobody tell me this was like that? Y'all didn't tell me that marriage was like this. Y'all, come on, man. So I'm hoping that I can tell you, so that way you preparing for this thing. Yeah. But in hindsight, I still think if I had to go back again, I would have done it the same way, the same time period. Would you? Oh, okay. So.
I always tell him, in hindsight, I probably would have waited. Not to say that would have changed anything. Probably not, because you don't know. Like you said, you don't know what you don't know until you find out you don't know it, if that makes sense. Because I say now, like, oh, I would have waited longer, but I would have been waiting longer for lessons that I would have had to get by going through. So, like, waiting longer would have just prolonged that lesson down the road. So, I like to keep saying that I would have waited longer, like that's going to change something. It's not.
I mean, it's kind of like, like when you get in trouble at school and, like, you're going to get that whooping, but your pops is not home yet, and you're going to get it, right? So at the end of the day, it's like, whether you get it at 7 or you get it at 9:30, you got to get it. And so I think that And I mean, we had this conversation, I think, even earlier. Like, I believe that there's like lessons that God's really trying to teach you through your spouse, and that you can only learn through your spouse. And you can think that you get that lesson like by yourself, but you need your spouse to be able to teach you that lesson. And that's the reason why He's specifically picked that spouse for you, to teach you those lessons. Now, some of them lessons are some tough lessons. There's some hard lessons. There's some, there's some things that, but at the end of the day, I mean, my belief is that, like, no matter how tough it is, that there is something amazing that can come out of it, even from those tough lessons, if we allow ourselves to learn them. So, I think ultimately, we could have prolonged. What's up, Tiff? I think ultimately, like, we could have prolonged it, but I mean, I'm learning so much about me. Like, I thought I had patience before. Man. Oh, here's just a tip. Just don't ask God for patience, okay? Yeah. Don't pray for patience, because He'll put you in some situations where, He put you in some situations where you're going to need some patience. So, yeah, man, I think that's it. What other question you got for us?
Somebody asked, was the first year the hardest? I think for us, all the years were hard. I think the first year for us was hard because we did a lot as a new couple, as newlyweds. We started a business. From my perspective, I would say hold off on doing something so new and so major. For me, just that's my perspective, my personality. He always says I'm adverse to risk. I don't feel like I'm adverse to risk. I just like to think about things. So the first year was hard. We we sacrificed a lot for the business, in my opinion. He sees it much differently, but yeah, I mean, it was hard.
Yeah. So, was the first year hard? Yes. Look. We are in our honeymoon. We went to Paris for our honeymoon.
Oh my gosh, they don't need to know all of this.
This is how we are in Paris. Bree gets an attitude and walks off in Paris. Just walks off and says she's just going to a store. And she's just like gone. She just leaves. I will talk to you later, and just walks off. In Paris, bro. Like, we just not like at the South Bay Galleria Mall, or she's in Paris, and she just walks away. So I go back to the hotel, and what did she have waiting for her? What did you have there?
Flowers.
She had roses. Now, mind you, she got upset. I can't even remember what she got upset at. But the girl's fuse was like this, okay? Okay, who gets upset in Paris, bro? Like, we in Paris. Like, most people in Paris is like, oh, oui. And,
all right, next question. So, yes, the French fries aren't even French, first of all.
Anyway, so, think about it. So, we had a tough first year. And then we had a tough second year. And then we having a tough going on third year. But, I mean, it's like this. I mean, if every day you wake up and you're still married, we got another chance, man. We have another opportunity, to fight for this. And one of the things that I told Bree, like, I'm not going out, like, I'll stay and be miserable before I leave, because that's just one of the things that I committed to. And I mean, it's, the biggest fear for me is the fear of losing my family. And so because of that, and when you put it on social media, everybody's going to hold you accountable. So, if y'all don't see me post about Bree for a while, y'all get in my DM and say, remember what you said, huh? You remember what you... Nah, but I always feel like that, like... Sorry. That, like, in the beginning... Now, granted, we didn't date for a really long time, right? How long did we date before we got...
Like 6 months.
We dated like 6 months, and then I proposed, right? Mm-hmm. And then we had what's
9 months.
9 months. So I mean, you know, there's some people who've been together with each other for years, man.
Who's that? Sherelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that felt the same way. So Sherelle says her first year of marriage has her feeling like they aren't gonna make it. It is hard, and I felt the same way. Like there's so many times where I'm just like, this is not for me. Like questioning what I signed up for. Why did I get married? So it's difficult. Like it's not roses all the time. And I feel like I feel like that's a big reason why I wanted to do this, is to just kind of tap into that community of, like, I know we're not the only ones experiencing this. I know we're not the only ones having like these intense fellowships about just things, life, because you're two individuals. Like in my opinion, Juan and I are like polar opposites. What he finds funny, I think, is stupid. Most of like we just had an argument over something funny that wasn't funny. So it's just one of those things. It's like you just have to continue to remember, like, who you made this vow to, and you didn't make it to your spouse. You made it to God. We made a vow to God that we would allow Him to love that person through us, and so it's tough to kind of hold on to that sometimes, but I just think it has to be a daily struggle, a daily reminder, like that even if you're struggling every day, just keep going. Even if it's a struggle every day, like it will get easier and easier. So I know for me, like my biggest struggle right now is just trying to like stay consistently in prayer about it, because sometimes it gets so hard for me that I don't even want to pray. And so but then that's kind of like where I feel blessed for having Juan, because he does push me, even though it will irritate the heck out of me sometimes to hear what I need to hear. Just sometimes you need some space to just be alone with God and reflect on what's bothering you and just give it over to Him, because you can make it through. Just if all you have to hold on to is the struggle, just hold on to that. It's something. It'll get you to some better times for sure.
And I mean, it's just like anything, right? Like, do you continue to go through the same things, right? And so the big thing for me is that, like, we have to understand that we are two individuals which are trying to like Sierra asked, can you expand with that? For marriage, what do you sign up for? And from my perspective is like, I think you sign up for everything, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I think you sign up for saying, I will not quit on working towards this. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think when you have two people who are no longer working towards it, I think then that's when you have an issue. But I think as long as for me, like I understand that like Bree and I are not going to always be on the same page. It's not going to always be great. But if I can see effort, if I can see you trying, if I can see you take one step, I can take that. Like you take one, I'll take two. I'll be there to push you and encourage you for every step of the moment, but you got to take a step. And I think that is what you're signing up for when you're saying you want to marry someone. I think you're signing up for like understanding that that person is not you. Like you guys are two totally different people, and it's okay. And it's okay.
I think you sign up to die to self. Like it really is the most selfless thing ever. Like to just deny your own being first and to put your spouse before yourself. But the key is if you're both doing that, you're both winning. So I know I struggle with like, well, if I give in on this point, like he's the only one winning. But if we both singularly made our focus to make the other person happy, then just by default, we would both always be happy. Now the struggle is like to not get caught in your own feelings. So that's because I'm struggling.
Because from like a Christian standpoint, like the idea is, and one of the hardest lessons that I'm learning is that my love for Bree is not contingent upon her actions or her love for me. Like, you know, she is deserving of my love, regardless of however she treats me, right? Like, that is not, I signed up to love her unconditionally, and that is my job and my role as her husband, and it's a hard thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, a hard thing. It's very difficult. But yeah, man, I think that's the biggest thing. So as far as what we did before marriage, so we did premarital counseling through the church. And then we also did, which was like a group thing that talked about like, what is a husband and wife's role? What does the Bible say about the husband's and wife role? And then we did premarital counseling with the actual marriage and family therapist as well. So we did that for a long period of time. And I mean, you uncover a lot of stuff, man. I suggest anybody who's thinking about marriage,
it's a must.
Do it. Do it before you start planning your wedding.
Yeah. Because
you may find out this is not the person that you want to marry.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you do uncover a lot of stuff. If people are honest, you uncover a lot of things, and you say, "Oh my gosh."
And now you won't uncover everything and that's one thing I had to come to the realization. Like, there are things now that he does that like bother me. Just like my own personal pet peeves that you would never know until you like live with someone. But in counseling and premarital counseling, look for those like true foundational things that like if you don't line up with, you have to take pause and really bring that to God and say like, is this who you're trying to pair me with? Because if we went to premarital counseling and really uncovered some just foundational things like our faith, like how we want to raise children, like those things are deal breakers for me. And so if like we weren't in line with like, how do you view yourself disciplining children, or, you know, do the kids have an option to go to church on Sunday morning type of things? Like, you have to be on the same page with those type of things. And I think at our point in life, those were kind of things that I wasn't willing to budge on. And so if he didn't see in line with, if he was just like, well, no, I'm open to exploring, you know, a different way of walking in my life, like that's just not for me. That's fine for him, but it's just not something I could do with a life partner. So I think though that's what's key with like doing marriage counseling, premarital counseling. What?
Cool. Let's see. You got another question?
No.
What do you have?
Oh, that's the last thing I just wrote when you.
No, up here.
Is marriage what you imagined it to be?
Is marriage, I mean, we can have a whole session on this. Is marriage what I imagined it to be? I'll let you go first.
No.
And then why?
But I think it goes back to like us.
Well, what did you imagine it to be? I mean,
you know, actually, I think that's a good question because I don't know what I imagined it to be. I know that would be hard. Maybe I had too much of like a Hollywood envisioning of it. Like, I envisioned, you know, the perfect like 9 to 5, come home, tree-lined street with maybe a kid playing in the yard. Traveling was like what I just saw myself with me and my husband doing, you know, like jet setters. So, yeah.
So, I mean, it's tougher than what I thought it was going to be. But I think the part that like Bree and I like we differ on, and I'm trying to get her to on this page, is that like, you know, in basketball there's the saying trust the process, of like it's a process, right? And so this idea that Bree has of like she is looking and envisioning the end point. She's like where we should be, and I'm saying we're gonna get there, but before we get to that point, like it's gonna be rough before we get there. And part of the reason why it was gonna be rough is because, hey, we did start a business. Hey, you know, we went the non-traditional route. Like, I hate doing the 9 to 5 thing. That is not like, I don't love it, you know. And I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and that's like the way that I really want to go. And we've talked about it and things of that nature. But we know, like in business and most things, like it takes a while to get there, to get momentum. And so getting Bree to see that it's been challenging. And I'm still like trying to get her to see, you know, because Bree is a planner, and she needs to be able to see every step. She needs to see the whole staircase before she takes a step. And I think one of the
not the whole staircase,
most of the staircase, right?
Not most. I just need to know their actual stairs.
She needs to know there's stairs there. She needs to. So because of that, like, I think one of the things that we're learning in this season of our lives is like to just trust. Like when God says go, just go, and just go. And like to really, like, for me, faith is not saying that like, you know, everything's going to be okay when you get there. Like, to me, faith is saying like, whether or not it's okay when you get there or it's not, you'll still be fine. And ultimately, like, to answer the question, I think that in my mind, I see when we get to that point, it's going to be everything that I've ever envisioned. But I mean, until Bree, I'm blessed, man. I have a beautiful wife. I have a son. I have a business. You know, it's like I have my health. You know, I have supportive family. You know, Jalen has a great support system. So yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me, you know, hey, what do you envision? Like, this is what a much larger family, hopefully, she'll give me a couple more. But besides that, man, this is everything that I've envisioned. I've seen firsthand, like, a marriage that was kind of rocky with my parents. So, I mean, I know that those periods go. But one thing that I certainly have said that I am all in on is whatever this wave takes me, just riding it. So, yep. Marriage is I'm enjoying every bit of it. All the tough moments and that I can't stand Bree, and I ask Bree, like, are you sure you want this? You let me know. If the ball is in your court, you let me know. Like,
well, I think that's one thing I'm working on is letting go of that, what I envisioned marriage to be. Not to say that I can't set that as a goal to arrive to, but sometimes I think I miss out on a lot of things because I'm so stuck on how I think it's supposed to look, that I'm like shortchanging myself for the joy that's already there. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, man, we're not gonna keep you guys for too much longer. Maybe go like another 10 minutes. Yeah, if you guys, I see there's a couple questions. First year, man, it's so hard. Congratulations, man. I think the other thing I think that people who are married need to do is, so my advice, I mean, you know, finding other married couples, that's a great question, David. We're going to go right there. Finding other married couples, I think, is really important. But also keeping a lot of people out your business, man. I think one of the things that like family means well, but I think it's important to set a precedent for boundaries. It's important to set a precedent for to ensure that your families see you guys as a unit. I think that is extremely important that you set, like, from the get-go. You know, something that we had to learn, something that we're still learning. And I think that everybody does not need to know your ins and out, your specific business, you know. Oh, well, Juan did. Oh, I can't, because when you go back and you tell your sister, your cousin, you can let it go. You over it. You and your husband, or you and your wife, or you and your spouse, y'all good. But that person in the back of their head, they're not going to be able to let it go. They're still going to see that person as the individual who's either upset that person. So just be careful about those things.
But I think, like you said, finding like a mentor couple or couples, like being around other like-minded married couples. I mean, find those that are like your peers, so people that have been married, you know, newlyweds like you may be, and then like the more mature married couples is key. Because one thing I've noticed, like when we've had some tough times, what I notice helps me to, like, I'm stubborn and I can be like, I can be very strong-willed and like unrelenting sometimes. Sometimes it can be hard for me to like knock myself out of an attitude. Like, even if I want to get out of the attitude, I just like stay stuck in it. And
this is Bree. She gets an attitude for no reason.
No.
Hold on, let me finish.
No.
She gets an attitude for whatever.
There's always a reason.
Okay, she gets an attitude real quick. And then she knows that it's stupid that she has an attitude. Then she gets an attitude because she has an attitude. So now she got a double attitude.
No. That's not the most accurate description, but there's a reason for the attitude. But then, yes, I will be like ready to get out of my attitude. I just don't know how to. Like, I just don't. And so what I've noticed is like I'm a silent treatment type of person. So I could stop talking for days, which isn't right. It's not fair. And so he's good at the next day he can wake up and then like nothing happened, and that pisses me off. So then the attitude continues on. But I've noticed like when we are in those tough moments, like if we go out to like a family event or we hang out with friends, it makes it easier for me to kind of like break that shell and then chat and then like apologize. So having that support system and like kind of a place where you can go to hang out with other couples and just kind of like just give you a little jolt to like if you're like that. I get an attitude very quickly. But
David asked like, how can you be more selfless instead of selfish? And I think the thing that I think works is that like every day you're looking for opportunities. Like you're really seeking them and searching for opportunities to make your spouse happy, right? So like understanding what pleases your spouse, I think is extremely important, because maybe Bree does not like flowers. Like my ex, I would buy her flowers all the time. I would go every other week. She has a couple dozen roses. She loved that. She don't like flowers. If I buy her flowers, she looks at me like disgusted.
I say thank you. You know I don't like flowers.
Anyway, so I think like searching for those opportunities. Like for instance, here's an example, right? So she was grabbing her wrist the other day. I didn't say one word, but I just went on Amazon and bought her a wrist brace. Like without her having to say anything, she didn't ask me for anything, but like that's me paying attention to my spouse. That's me looking for opportunities to like, now grant the wrist brace is $10, but to me, I think it sends a message of like, I'm paying attention to what you need and your needs. And I think if we're open to it, if we're paying attention to those things, I think if both of you guys are doing it, imagine like how amazing and how like awesome that would be when both of you guys are going out of your way to make sure that your spouse's needs are met. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's a way that you can practice it, like looking for the opportunities, because they're not going to always just drop in your lap. I think you got to go out and search for them.
You do, yeah, because it's easy to get caught up in, because I can go like one little thing can see one little thing, and then I just stay focused on the negative. So I personally try to think of like, how do I want to be treated, and then try to like reflect that back on to him. And then too, it's also not like pointing out to the person too, like, well, see, I did that for you, and like, look what I'm doing for you. And it is a two-way street, and it's hard like when the other person isn't reciprocating that. But I think if you just continue on that path, the other person will, if they truly love you, that's just my opinion, they'll do that.
Cool. Thank you guys. We're gonna end this here because we gotta go get Jalen, and I need to shower. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. This is episode 1. We don't know how often we're gonna do this, but we'll post it. And this is what's the name of this again? Marriage
is for Adults.
Well, let's try it on 3. Ready? 1.
Wait, are we saying it?
I'm gonna say Marriage is for Adults.
Yeah, but we're saying 1, 2, 3. Marriage.
I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Marriage. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Marriage is for adults. Come on, man. Come on.
I sound like a robot. I don't.
Just one more time. Let's do it.
Okay. Have either. Oh wait, I was trying to read the comment. Look at this. I don't want to leave Noah out.
1, 2, 3.
Marriage is for adults. What? I did it wrong?
Peace, y'all.
Why? I didn't do it wrong.
You did.
No, I didn't. You click finish.